That's the reading of 12 and over through the law. So let's now go into the lesson. And there's a few questions we're going to ask. First, within the chapter we're in Exodus, the 20th chapter. All right. When it says, "Thou shalt not make unto me any graven image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth." What does that mean, Sandy?
It means that you, well, I can't give you any scripture about it. It means that you're not supposed to make any likeness of anything above in the heavens.
But what does it mean in this context? Because this is telling you that he's the Lord thy God, and he's a jealous God. So what is the context of this making of images?
So you won't follow other gods?
No, to worship.
Worship other gods?
To worship. You notice every religion has something created by the works of man's hands, or by an idol to bow down to. You understand? If you go into the Catholic Church, you have all these different idols of angels which are supposed to be in heaven, and different images that people actually bow down to the worship. So what makes the Most High jealous is that his people is following these gods that were made by the hands of man. Right? So that's the context. The context is worship. All right? Now, Mike Allah, when it speaks about the Most High's name, let's go into his name for a moment. It says, "Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain." Now the Jewish powers are saying that they're telling people that they can't say the real name of the Most High in public because that's breaking the commandment of taking the Most High's name in vain. Now there's no context in Scripture anywhere that explains that. But what does it mean to take the Lord's name in vain?
Basically, calling him something that he's not. Is you taking his name in vain.
That could be one thing, but what else?
So doing evil, but then saying that you're doing it
In the name of the Most High. Because the Most High never tempted man to do evil. That's what it means. That's the key context. Because this is within his law, right? Now, the Sabbath. The Sabbath. It says, "Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath unto the Lord God. In it thou shalt not do any work." What does that mean?
That on the seventh day, that means not to do no work. It's the rest day.
It's a day of rest. Now what this means is servile work, which is working for money. Because when Christ went into the temple and healed a man, that was actually work. You understand? But he was able to do righteous on the Sabbath day. Because Sabbath was made for man, not the other way around. Some people try to be over righteous and stand in a corner somewhere with the lights off and think that's what it means following the Sabbath. When you do have a choice for good works on the Sabbath, and if you're not going to do any good works, then just have that day for the Most High. But if you're working for finances, that's supposed to be during the 6 days the Most High give you, because he worked the first 6,000 years and rested the 7,000th year. But of course, Satan put everything out of course, because now he purposely have everyone believe that Sunday is the Sabbath, so that you will hallow and not work on Sunday in reverence of the sun god. You got that? Now, one more thing, Yahweh, when it says visiting the iniquity upon the third and fourth generation of them that hate him. What does that mean in the 5th verse when it says, thou shalt not bow down thyself to them nor serve them, for I am the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. What does it mean, one that hate the Most High? Who is one that hate the Most High? And what chapter and verse is that? No, 1 John. You're in 1 John, correct, but it's not 1 John 2. 1 John 5. Read 1 John 5, 1 through 3 real quick.
John 5, 1. Whosoever believes that Yeshua is the Christ is born of the Messiah. Everyone that loveth him, that beget, loveth him also that is begot of him. By this we know that we love the children of the Most High.
This is how we love. Read.
When we love the Most High and keep his commandments.
So if keeping the Most High's commandments is love, what is hate? Not keeping the commandments. And when you don't keep the commandments, the curse goes down to how many generations? And that's why when they put us in slavery, they taught us purposely to break the law, so that the curse could be generational. You understand? So that your children, so now you breaking the law, now 3 generations have to go through a curse. And then when that generation continue with Sunday worship and eating pork and all that, that's 3 more generations they can control. So don't tell me they don't know the Bible. Our curses are generational, and they know this. See this? So if the church is taught this in the proper context, they will be more inclined to follow and understand the law, because curses are true. You understand? And here's the point, and this lets you know we're dealing with in an earth of a world of total unbelief. We respect more so that a man or a woman can put a curse on us than the Most High. That lets you know we've been totally disconnected from the Most High. That you have people going to these different seers and all that to ask, well, did this person put a root on me, or did this person put a curse? We're more fearful of man than the Most High who put a curse, because his curse is deeper than what a man or a woman can do, because it's not just an individual. He can curse a whole nation. And then make it where if you don't follow the law, your grandchildren will follow in the same pattern. Now, if people understood that power, they would be inclined to understand the law to some degree, right? So it's going back to the work, it's speaking of servile work, working for money. Now, some people believe, well, if I don't work on a Sabbath, then I'll get fired. Well, there's ways to go about it. You work for a while, get used to get used to being at a job, and make sure you're not in bad terms. And then once you sit down with the boss, you let them know that, listen, I've actually converted to Judaism. I've converted into the Sabbath. And if you put it in those terms, by law, they cannot fire you. That's why Jewish people, you notice you don't find too many Jewish people working on a Saturday. Not too many. I'm talking about those who believe. So you do have the right to exercise that. and not work on the Sabbath day. And see what makes this deeper for us, because really, if these Jewish people decided to work on a Saturday or whatever the case is, that would really have no effect on them, because their God is Satan anyway. But it's really affecting us. They got us slaving and partying on a Friday night, and then partying on a Saturday night, and then Sunday we're going for rest. It's affecting us generationally. See that? And they purposely made it that way, where you'll work all week, you'll rest Sunday, you work from Monday to Friday, you're tired, and now you're getting paid on Friday, and you know you want to unwind a little bit. They purposely made it that way, where you get paid, and when the sun go down, it's party time. Thank God it's Friday. And then you party on Saturday. It's generational. You see that? Okay. Let me ask the brothers and sisters, is the internet feed clear, or is there issues? Okay, some people say it's issues and some others say it's clear. Okay, Izzy says it's a little choppy. Okay, someone says the audio is clear, but the video is choppy. Well, why don't you do me a favor? Why don't everyone refresh their screens by pushing F5, and that should be a little better for you. Okay, yeah. Just refresh your screens, F5, or hit the little circle at the top, and that'll refresh it for you. Now, since we're speaking of the name of the Most High, for those who didn't know this, I wanted to bring this out before we go into the class. There was a Jewish guy by the name of Henry Mackau, who came out with the book, The Illuminati, and I have sent, a matter of fact, this was sent by Sister Shumi and Kuda not too long ago, a book called Illuminati 2 by Henry Mackau. Now, Henry Mackau was on a radio show that Elder Gabar invited him into about sometimes, I think it was earlier this year or late last year, in which Henry Mackau, when he realized whom he was speaking with, started trying to retract and project and not deal with what was written in his book. All right. What he wrote in this book is profound, because not only is he Jewish, not only do he have information on the Illuminati, in the book, he actually made excerpts that he know the name of the Most High, opposed to the God Yahweh or YHWH that was given to the population to worship Satan. It's in the book of the Illuminati. The Illuminati is what you would call the satanic group under Satan, that are over the Masonic order, that is attempting and will accomplish to some degree a world of unbelief and all people following the works of Satan himself. That's the one world order agenda, to worship Satan as God. In this book, he makes it clear the true name of the Most High. And don't tell me they don't know, because they actually pronounce the name in the ancient Phoenician text, as we've been saying for years. This book was published, and I'm going to show you the published date on the book. This book was published 2010. So that alone will tell you that we've been putting out the name of the Most High since 2001. And no one had been saying anything. We've been getting pushed back from all the Hebrews and everyone, telling them that they're secretly, without knowledge, they are worshiping Satan by calling on Yahweh and Jehovah and all these different names of the Tetragrammaton. Now that Satan have accomplished his program in demoralizing the earth and getting the one world military under him, he's now revealing himself as the God of all religions, including the Hebrew religions. They're coming out in the forefront and revealing themselves now. Now, of course, they don't expect our people to buy books like the Illuminati too, deceit and seduction. One other thing, I pulled out a book not too long ago that was brought to my attention called The Witch's Guide, and I pulled this book out in 2008. And in the book The Witch's Guide, it's a pagan book. The top witches admit that their God, their highest God, is Jehovah in the English and Yahweh in the Hebrew. The Witch's Guide. Now, what is admitted in this book, and I'm bringing this forth because I know there's some brothers and sisters out there that wasn't in the advanced lesson class when we brought this forth. There's a context in the book on page 130. It says, God's real name. Now, before Henry Mackay was on our radio show, because we invited him on the radio show based on this book. Before this, before he was on our show, keep in mind, we had no contact with him. We never met him. We did not know this guy. And this book was published in 2010. We invited him on the show based on the fact that we thought that maybe he ran into some of our teachings, because there's very few people who are pronouncing the name of the Most High in the ancient Phoenician tongue. Okay? Now, I need you to read the whole thing. He's going to read this page 130, Demonology in God's Real Name. What does it say under demonology, under his record here? And he got the references to the book. Read. The Secret of the Ancient Egyptians.
It says, the secret of the ancient Egyptians and their modern disciples, the Freemasons, is the art of demonology for gaining power, mainly through the devil, Jehovah. In the Royal Arch degree, the Freemason acknowledges that the devil, in the guise of Jabulon, is his sacred lord.
Now you notice it tells us that the Masons are disciples of Egypt, ancient Egypt mysticism. You notice on the gravestone of certain high Masonic people like Charles Taze Russell, there's pyramids and stuff all over their graves and all that, and they're from Europe. This is ancient Egyptian mysticism. They're disciples of the old art, the old occult. Read.
I'll read it again from the top.
Go ahead.
It says, the secret of the ancient Egyptians and their modern disciples, the Freemasons.
The Freemasons
is the art of demonology for gaining power.
Is the art of demonology for gaining power. So if they call on certain and invoke certain names, they can have help by this particular demon. Read.
Mainly through the devil, Jehovah.
Mainly through the devil, Jehovah. So you're praying to that God, receiving all these blessings, and you think it's from the Most High. But it's really you are invoking one of the top demons. You are invoking a high demon. Now, we didn't know this guy at all. Finish reading. I want you, we're going to go into the Lucifer part too, I want you to go into, but I need you to finish with that real quick.
It says, in the Royal Arch degree, the Freemason acknowledges that the devil, in the guise of Jabulon, is his sacred lord.
In the Royal Arch degree of Masonry. Now, this is a fact. You can look this up When in the royal ark, that's actually a fragment of the masonry. Read.
Acknowledges that the devil, in the guise of Jebulun, is his sacred lord.
And the God of Jebulun is his sacred Lord. So when you go into masonry and go up to the top, you get Jah or Yah, which is Jebulun. That's the sacred Lord of the Masons. Like the Jamaicans call on Jah or Yah, that's the God they're calling on. That's Lucifer too. Read.
The name Jebulun being a composite of Yahweh.
Being a composite of Yahweh or Yahweh. So Jebulun and Yahweh or Yahweh is synonymous. They're the same God, Satan. Now this is coming from the Illuminati book in Orders of Demonology. Read.
Being a composite of Yahweh, Baal, and Osiris.
Now someone was asking, and I want you to hold that part where it talks about Osiris in one moment. Someone asked a question about exorcism. There's no such thing as exorcism in the Bible. In the Bible, the disciples under Christ and Christ himself cast out spirits. They were not exorcisms. Exorcisms is what the Catholic Church do. What's the difference? In exorcism, you are in agreement with the higher demon to cast out a lesser demon. All the same, you must link up to a higher demon to get the demon out. So what they do is they recognize the name of the demon in a person, and they have a book of a higher demon that they can actually invoke to cast out as a general to order the soldier demon. That's the way exorcisms work. It's an order under Satanism. So what they do is through certain sacrifices and rites, they link up to the higher demons to appear to the people that they're performing miracles, when really it's a lower demon following his general. See that? That's what's going on under exorcism. It's an entirely different practice than casting out spirits, because the highest name is AHAYAH, AHAYAH, and in the name of his son Yeshua. That controls the whole spectrum, and it can cast out all spirits, including Yahweh, including Jehovah. That's the name they fear, and I'm going to prove this. Remember when the demon came when Christ went to cast the spirit out, and the spirit said, have you come to torment me before my time? He knew that Christ's name had full power over all spirits, including the spirits on the left-hand side, Satan on down. So when you call on Yahweh, Jehovah, and all the names the Europeans have given us through our slavery, you're actually giving them power over you, because you're not dealing with that God like they are. They're dealing directly with that God. Finish reading.
It says, he chants.
Go ahead. Yes. Yes, sir.
Jebulun, 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 Jehovah. That's from Codex Magica.
Go back to Osiris and Baal.
The composite of Yahweh, Baal, and Osiris.
So when you hear Baal, that's also a name of Yahweh. Remember, the Most High tell us that we shall no longer call him Baali, but Ishi. Why? Because we began to call on Satan. Ishi, when you look at the pronunciation and the translation, it goes into Yeshua or Yeshaya. That we would no longer follow Baal, that Christ would come to lead us back to the Father. Baali is Jehovah. If you don't believe me, look at Baali in your strong concordance, and it refers you to who? Yahweh. YHWH, Jehovah. That's who Baali is. Finish reading.
It says, Albert Pike discusses the Kabbalistic, Masonic significance of Jehovah in a great length in Morals and Dogma.
And Morals and Dogma. Now, we did a lesson called Satan's Son. breaking down Albee Pike, and a top Mason who has a statue around the corner from the Washington, D.C., from the White House, and he was never an elected official. He also gave the plan of the Illuminati to bring 3 world wars in the earth that would lead to all mankind in the earth worshiping Satan. He even spoke of democracy. He spoke of communism. He also spoke of his God, Jehovah or Yahweh, in Morals and Dogma. So the elite could know the God to call on to control the populace. In Morals and Dogma. This stuff is not hidden. You can find these records. Read.
The name Yahweh was injected into the text of the Old Testament by
It says the name Yahweh, which is Jehovah or Jehovah, was injected in the text when?
of the Old Testament by the Pharisees and others who practiced Babylonian Satanism.
There you go. The Babylonian Satanists inject their God into our records, fulfilling Jeremiah when it says, the pens of the scribes are in vain. They thought that they could trick us, knowing that we would lose our identity for a time and not speak Hebrew. So in a new tongue, they injected the name in an effort to have us call on their God upon our awakening. Read on.
An agreement was forged between the Jewish Masoretes and the Catholic Church,
Go ahead.
1000 AD, to change the name of God in the Hebrew Old Testament to the pagan name Yahweh/Jehovah via the Tetragrammaton.
Via the Tetragrammaton. Now, listen, this is the Illuminati book, brothers and sisters, for those who just came in. We didn't know this guy. We didn't know this guy. They don't care if you know now because they have accomplished their one world army. Now they're ready to go all out against us. So they don't care if we know they're worshiping Satan now. The question is whether or not we as a people will continue to follow Satan, because if we stay under their gods, they will destroy us. We must link back to the God at the throne, the God of all gods. We must link back to AHAYAH. I'm going to show you. Read.
God's real name.
God's real name. Read.
The demonic disdain for humanity exhibited by the Luciferian Jew, Harold Rosenthal, typifies the end result of a lethal amalgamation. Jewish religious ritual combined with the worship of knowledge and self. The Jews as a people, by rejecting God and accepting Jehovah, have been given over to a reprobate mind being filled with all unrighteousness. Of course, Mr. Rosenthal was a member of an elite, openly satanic minority among the Jewish people. Everyday Jews do not know that the God of their faith is in fact Satan hidden behind a mystical name.
Most Jewish people don't even know that they are worshiping Satan. And it's hidden by a mystical name that none do the research on. And in order to get this information and understand it, you must be willing to research beyond the Masoretic text. You have to know the agenda of the Masoretes once our people began to lose their identity. The Masoretes came in between the 8th and 11th century and began to control our scrolls and records and inject their name in the book. Now, some may say, well, if they injected their name, then we shouldn't follow the text. That's not true. We need to go to the name the Most High gave us and keep the rest of the text, because they didn't just change every word in the book. They just wanted to give the credit to this great record to their God. So they didn't change the context of the scriptures. They just injected their God instead of the God of the Hebrews. Read on.
It is of no consequence to Satan whether he is worshipped deliberately or through subtle lies and deception.
So Satan don't care how he's worshipped, as long as you worship him. Read.
The wise Solomon asked, what is God's name? And what is his son's name, if thou canst tell? Proverbs 30:4. God's name is AHAYAH.
Hold up. God's name is what?
AHAYAH.
AHAYAH. Read.
Sometimes translated Ayah, meaning I am. This is the name given to Moses along with the law. And God said unto Moses, I am that I am.
You mean to tell me those that have studied the Illuminati know the Most High's name? You bet your bottom dollar they know his name. Because in order to change God's name to Satan, they must have known what was there from the beginning. If you don't believe me, I didn't write this book, but you would think that we had our hand in it. And that's why the Most High had us bring it out years ago. And I'm going to tell you, they would have never told us. But now the cat is out of the bag. They're like, okay, we'll put it out there, but then we'll spin it our way. And you have brothers and sisters out there who will still hold on to these other names that links directly to Satan. But why? Some people are like, why? If the Most High said his name is I am that I am, and he says my name is AHAYAH, and that's my name forever, why would people stick with these names? Why? Because when you invoke the highest demon, you are under a spell. And I can understand this more so than most people, because at one time, I believed the Most High's name was Yahweh. I believed it was Yahweh, which is the same as Jehovah, the same as Yahweh, the same as the English Jehovah. It was the Catholic Church in league with the Jewish Masoretes that collaborated together to invoke Satan's name in all religious texts, Christian and under Judaism. They agreed. And then when they began their conquest, which is their re-education and reprogramming process, they began to teach their God to the children, which was us, the children of slaves. All right? Anything else on that?
That's about it.
That's it. Okay. All right. So I hope